So welcome to TigerLily's Freedom Roar. Welcome to Freedomizer Radio. This is my morning show. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. If you want to be part of the discussion, the number to call is 347-324-3704. And it is just past the hour, 10:06. And I'm so sad that I lost 4 minutes of very precious time. But I have a very important story to cover. And I've been saying all along that, this morning show on Freedomizer Radio is about my experiences as a registered nurse. I used to be a registered nurse. I was licensed in 11 states, and I performed nursing duties in 4 of those states all across the country. And I never thought I would find a more narcissistic group of professionals as when I became a registered nurse at the age of 40. And the narcissistic group is medical doctors. And, there's one side that they portray to the patients because they don't want to get sued. And there's a completely different side, their real, true ego self, that they portray to us registered nurses. So behind the scenes, lots of stuff goes on, which is why I totally believe this new report that came out from JAMA, the Journal for American Medical Association, which is the most popular magazine or publication in the medical, most respected in the medical society or medical industry across the planet. And in this publication, they reported that medical errors are the 3rd leading cause of death in America. And it's no surprise to me. So before doing this radio show, I was exposing stuff about the police state in America. But let me tell you guys, what happens when you get law enforcement, this narcissistic group of individuals, to team up with medical doctors? Oh my God. You get what happened in New Mexico. And where is lamestream media? Where are they to report? Number 1, that medical errors are the 3rd leading cause of death in America. And number 2, the atrocities being done in this country by both law enforcement and doctors. When you combine them, you get some lethal, horrific, gulag style of things. My goodness gracious sakes alive. So I covered the RT News report of what I'm talking about. This happened in Deming, New Mexico. And I'm going to start off the show airing the KOV News report, the original report that was published, I guess, on the 6th, 2 days ago, by KOV in New Mexico.
It started out as a minor traffic stop, but the next 14 hours would turn into a humiliating violation of a New Mexico man's body by police and doctors.
For On Your Side, investigator Chris Ramirez found a case that had us asking, is law enforcement in one community going way too far? A warning, the contents of this story are not suitable for children.
It's terrifying. I mean, it's absolutely a nightmare.
Shannon Kennedy is a civil rights attorney, and when you hear this story, you'll understand why a New Mexico man called her for help.
I mean, it's absolutely unimaginable that this could happen in America.
Here's the story. Lordsburg resident David Eckert was shopping at this Walmart in Deming. When he left the parking lot, he didn't make a complete stop at the stop sign as he merged into traffic. Police stopped him. What happens next is documented in medical reports, police reports, and now a federal lawsuit.
They say that when he stepped out of his car, he was standing in a manner that looked as if he was clenching his buttocks.
That's right. Suddenly, this was no longer a minor traffic stop. It was an investigation into Eckert's buttocks. Police note that a drug dog alerted to a possible odor of drugs on Eckert's car seat. And so, police concluded Eckert might be hiding drugs in his anal cavity. The report showed Deming police held Eckert in custody while they secured a warrant signed by a judge allowing a search of his anal cavity. A lawsuit states police took him to the Deming emergency room at Members Hospital, but a doctor there told police he wouldn't perform the search because it was ethically wrong. Next stop, the Gila Regional Medical Center in Silver City, where doctors there agreed to help. And here's where things go badly for Eckert, very badly. According to court records and medical charts, first, doctors x-rayed Eckert, then penetrated his rectum with their fingers, then performed another exam with their fingers. Doctors then gave Eckert 3 enemas and forced him to defecate in front of them while they searched his stool. All of these things done without consent, all of them finding nothing. But it didn't stop there. Doctors performed a second x-ray. Then they sedated Eckert, prepared him for surgery, and performed a colonoscopy. This animation shows how far the scope goes as it travels through the anus, rectum, colon, and into the intestines. Eckert protested each medical procedure.
The thought that they could do this to a man in our country is terrifying. I mean, our community should be outraged, and the public has a right to know about this so that they are aware when they're traveling through that part of our state to be careful and to be on guard.
There's a line right here, and it's important because this line separates Luna County from Grant County. One more time, because it's important. Luna County, Grant County. It's important because this search warrant was only good in Luna County, but all of those medical procedures happened over here in Grant County. We took all of this to the chief of Deming Police. In terms of just being able to sit down and just chat for a few minutes, will you have a couple minutes right now to do that?
No, sir. Anything pertaining to that specific case, we're going to refer you all to Tony Ortiz, our attorney in Santa Fe.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, we can contact him.
You know, just one question. As the police chief of Deming, what reassurances could you give people that when they come through your town, that they're not going to be abused or violated by your police officers? We follow the law in every aspect and follow procedures and protocols that we have in place.
And do you think, in your own opinion, as the chief of police here, do you think that those officers in this particular case did that?
Sir, I'm going to refer that one to the attorney as well due to the ongoing litigation, okay?
In an email, Tony Ortiz wrote he won't comment, but added that the city of Deming will prevail in this matter. Now, you might expect administrators here at Gila Regional Medical Center to defend their doctors, maybe even defend patient care here. Turns out they're not. Instead, they're issuing me a no comment, saying that this is a pending litigation matter and they're not going to comment on it.
I mean, this is like something out of a science fiction film. Anal probing by government officials and public employees.
Let's talk about your client today. We were supposed to meet with your client, and then at the last minute, he backed out of our interview. How come?
He's terrified. He's absolutely terrified that he's living in a community where police are able to harass people traveling through this community and people who live there, basically unchecked.
It started with a minor traffic violation, and you may think it ended with 8 anal medical procedures, but there's one more thing. The Gila Regional Medical Center billed Eckert for those procedures and is even threatening to take him to collections if he doesn't pay. Chris Ramirez.
I'm very shaken by this, folks, because this is horrific. Land of the free, home of the brave. I'll tell you, my first awakening to the tyranny state came from a group of activists called Bikers of Lesser Tolerance, BOLT. And you know, we're always about, you know, motorcycle rights and yada yada. And that's what we are about, but that's what the organization is about. But I have since branched out into other aspects of so-called rights. I'm to the point where I don't believe that there is such thing as a right. So this person who I didn't get permission to say this person's name, but this person is out of the North Carolinas. And when I posted this article or this information on that Bikers of Lesser Tolerance forum, this person replied, and she said the Deming, New Mexico incident is not an isolated incident. It is happening all over this country. I remember how shocked I was 10 years ago to hear of a forced catheterization incident in Daytona in which a man suspected of drug use refused to provide a urine sample, so the cops held him down while hospital staff inserted a urethral catheter. How about all the killings by cops, such as the poor man with hearing disabilities who liked to whittle with his small knife and was told to drop it but didn't hear, so the cop opened up on him, killing him? Or the emotionally distraught man in a wheelchair who was slashing tires with a knife, who had a few cops fill him with lead, killing him? Or the very peaceful protesters who were sitting down and the cops going to each one of them, spraying gobs of mace directly onto their faces from a foot away? We have been in a horrifying police state ever since 9/11, where everything about us is constantly surveilled, and the omnipotent government is frequently malevolent and not held accountable. I'd go further than that and say frequently? Really? I wouldn't even say 9 times out of 10. How many times have you seen a criminal cop go to jail? And who's attracted to these positions of power if it isn't sadists and narcissists and psychotic people anyways? But I would venture to say that it is much more likely that nurses are attracted to positions of nursing out of an altruistic desire to help people than doctors are, because doctors, the vast majority of them, are attracted to the position because of the power they will have, the power and money. And that's reinforced every time you see one of these doctors and their little talking heads right on television. How often do you see a nurse being asked for their advice? I mean, when the issue of hospital infections goes on, it becomes a theme. They go to the doctors. Now, what the heck do doctors know about what goes on in the hospitals? So my point is that nurses have their own licenses. Nurses do not answer to doctors. Nurses can only have the authority to do certain things. And if they need more authority to do something for a patient that is under their care, they have to contact that doctor by phone or in any way that they can to get that authorization from that doctor. And 9 times out of 10, nurses won't even do that much because they don't want to have to annoy the doctor, for heaven's sakes. So my question here in this case is, okay, this guy had 3 enemas. In all of my career, I have never seen a physician perform an enema. It has always been either a nurse or a nurse's aide. And those nurse's aide answer to the nurses. There's a pecking order, folks. So I want to know who the nurses were that acted like robotic monkeys to do as ordered. Wasn't that the excuse the Nazis used? I was just following orders as they spiked a dead Jew and threw him into the oven. And not just Jews, gypsies, homeless, gays, handicaps. Oh, but they were just following orders, weren't they? Well, people, it's time to wake up and get out of this indoctrination and recognize that we are human livestock being controlled by our masters. Our slave masters are those with the guns and funny costumes and badges. And our rulers are those making the laws and those controlling the makers of the laws, namely the American Medical Association and the American Hospital Association. Those are big, big interests that control the strings of our lawmakers. And by the way, laws are just opinions with a gun, folks. Land of the free, home of the brave. This is disgusting. Now, it has since also been exposed that in Deming, New Mexico, this has happened. Another person came out of the woodworks.
The entire nation is talking about last night's Four on Your Side investigation.
Chris Ramirez exposed how police officers and doctors in New Mexico violated the body of a driver multiple times, all because he ran a stop sign. But there's even more to this investigation.
And tonight there's another driver who says the story is horribly familiar.
Is law enforcement in one community going way too far?
It's a story that has left the entire country wondering about the state of law enforcement in New Mexico. 4 on Your Side revealed how David Eckert rolled through a stop sign in Deming. A canine named Leo alerted that it sniffed drugs on Eckert's driver's seat. And for the next 14 hours, those police officers and doctors at the Gila Regional Medical Center performed 8 medical procedures, including x-rays, rectal finger exams, enemas, and finally a colonoscopy. According to a federal lawsuit, officers Bobby Orozco and Robert Chavez were 2 of the officers involved, and they never found drugs inside Eckert.
He's living in a community where police are able to harass people traveling through this community and people who live there, basically unchecked.
Our investigation reveals another chapter. Another man, another minor traffic violation, another incident with Leo the canine, and another violation of a man's body.
707, Durbin Way.
This is dashcam video from the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office in Lordsburg. Police reports state deputies stopped Timothy Young because he turned without putting his blinker on. Again, Leo the canine alerts on Young's seat. Young is taken to the Gila Regional Medical Center in Silver City, and just like Eckert, he's subjected to medical procedures, including x-rays of his stomach and an anal exam. Again, police found nothing, and again, the procedures were done without consent and in a county not covered by the search warrant. And we've learned more about that drug dog, Leo, who just seems to get it wrong all the time, and he might be getting it wrong because he's not even certified in New Mexico. Take a look at the dog certification. The dog did get trained, but his certification to be a drug dog expired in April 2012. Canines need yearly recertification courses, and Leo is falling behind.
We have done public records requests to try to find anything we can to show that this dog had ever been trained, and we have evidence this dog has had false alerts in the past.
One last thing to tell you about, all these doctors at the Gila Regional Medical Center, well, they've been turned over to a state licensing board, so it's possible that they may lose their license to practice medicine. And as for all these police officers, well, they're going to be answering to a state certification board as well. Chris Ramirez, 4 on Your Side.
I can pretty much guarantee you guys that these doctors are not going to lose their licenses. They might get suspended. They're not going to lose their licenses. And if you or I were to perform anal rape on another human being, we'd be caged up right now, folks. We'd be having to protect our own anuses from being raped from fellow inmates. But when somebody in authority, like a doctor, or somebody who carries a badge does it, the rules don't apply to them. And this is what we advocate each and every time that we vote. We're advocating giving our liberty to some ruler to tell us what it is we can or cannot do. When we vote, we are pointing a gun. We're selecting the side to point a gun at your neighbors. So that was the second person that came through with the with a complaint that happened to him as well. It didn't sound that great in my ear, but I hope you got the gist of it. And I've been doing a lot of research on that, and I found the entire lawsuit. And let me just point out a few things from the actual lawsuit. This is on page 4, on number 9. Plaintiff was handcuffed and taken to Deming Police Department on around 2 p.m. Number 10, plaintiff was in police custody at least by 2 p.m. on January 2, 2013. On January 2, 2013, defendant Chavez, the police officer, sought a search warrant for plaintiff's person, quote, to include but not limited to his anal cavity. Number 12, a judge signed a search warrant for plaintiff's anal cavity based on Chavez's, the police officer's, affidavit. Number 13, Chavez, the cop, and the other cop, Hernandez, took plaintiff to Gila Regional Medical Center to execute the search warrant while the plaintiff was in handcuffs. Now, I'm going to pause right here. This isn't in the complaint, but the report on the news is that they went to another hospital first. My husband did just a general search on both hospitals. One of them is a private hospital. One of them is a government hospital. Guess which one is the one that aided and abetted the anal rape? The government hospital. That's the hint. 14, plaintiff was admitted to Gila Medical Center where he was given an x-ray and 2 digital searches of his rectum by 2 different doctors. No drugs were found. Next, during the second digital search, Dr. Odocha determined, quote, there was stool in the rectum. There were no masses felt apart from the soft stool, end quote. At 10:23 p.m., plaintiff was given the first enema. See nurse's notes. I'm going to be looking at those nurses' notes, and I want to know who those nurses are. And I am going to broadcast their names in public because, you see, nurses are the last defense against deadly doctors. And in this case, this nurse or nurses were complicit in this anal rape of a human being. At midnight, plaintiff was given the third enema. Next, after each enema, plaintiff had a forced bowel movement, and defendant officers searched plaintiff's stool after each bowel movement. Next, after completing the 3 enemas, doctors performed a chest x-ray of plaintiff. There's much more, folks, but I got to go to commercial break. Please stand by, and I'll come back and tell you the rest of this horrific stuff. You're listening to Tiger Lily, and if you want to be part of the discussion, please phone me, 347-324-3704. Thank you for listening. This is Tiger Lily. No, my real name is Lily Gonzalez, known as Tiger Lily, and I'm your show host. This is the healthcare edition of Tiger Lily's Freedom Roar, which you'll only hear on Freedomizer Radio. And I am upset, you guys, today because I've been researching this, and I do not have enough time to tell you guys all of the stuff that I have uncovered. But I'm going to make this a continuing story, just like I was doing with the woman who was found dead in a stairwell in a government hospital in San Francisco while people were just walking over her. And by the way, I've been covering her story every single day that I could, unless I can't remember. But there have been no new developments. I've got a Google search that comes automatically into my email, and basically the headlines are, let's see, San Francisco from beginning miscommunication hampered the search for a missing San Francisco hospital patient whose body was eventually blah, 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 blah. And it was found 2 weeks later, more than 2 weeks later. She was dead in the stairwell. And there's a lot of finger pointing. San Francisco sheriff's deputies failed to conduct a campus-wide search, a lot of yada yada. That one is from the Daily Mail. Another one from BBC England. Evidently, this woman was English-born. And that one, the little title says, the police search for a missing British woman whose body was eventually found in the stairwell of a San Francisco hospital was flawed. The local sheriff has yada, yada, yada. But today, and I think this is going to be an ongoing study of mine, is the story of this heinous situation where a poor guy in Deming, New Mexico, allegedly ran a stop sign. And because of that, his nightmare began. And this happened at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was reading from the lawsuit, and I'm up to where he's already had his third enema. And I'm going to continue reading from the lawsuit. Next, after completing 3 enemas, doctors performed a chest x-ray of plaintiff. Next, plaintiff was scheduled for a colonoscopy to be conducted at 1 a.m. And that was by Dr. Odocha's written order, timed at 10 p.m. Next, the colonoscopy was pursuant to the warrant ID. Next, at 1:26 a.m., plaintiff was taken into surgery. Next, a colonoscopy was performed on plaintiff. Next, at 2:20 a.m., plaintiff was approved for discharge. Next, at 2:35 a.m., defendant officers escorted plaintiff back to Deming City from Silver City. Next, from the Deming Police Department, plaintiff was eventually taken to his home in Lordsburg, New Mexico. And there's more, you guys. But I'm going to have to stop with that to just tell you a few other things that are key to this story and how the media is beginning to spin this. I believe it was the Blaze. I should know for sure, but I'm reasonably sure, 90% sure, that it was the Blaze, who is run by Glenn Beck, is already digging into the defendant's past. This defendant has allegedly a history of not obeying, of not conceding to the war on drugs. Translation, he may have had some kind of a criminal conviction for some vegetation in his pocket. I don't know the details of that. Nor is it relevant, folks. The only thing that is relevant is that these coward criminal cops pulled him over, allegedly for not stopping all the way, and initiated a grotesque torture of a human being. So the Blaze, way to turn it around and blame the victim. Thank you for your service. And I say this in quotations, sarcastically. The other thing that has arisen from this case is now, I read on reason.com. Let me see if I could find that. I just found that they got a cute picture of a doggy, where basically they're the media is trying to blame the dog, because the dog evidently sniffed something where the accused was sitting, sniffed something, and the dog was trying to tell, like Lassie, drugs, he's got drugs in his butt. So now the issue is the dog wasn't certified. Well, I have news, folks. Police officers don't need an excuse. They don't need they don't even need reasonable suspicion. They can lie all they want and get away with it in order to violate you. Because you see, that's the only way they're going to get promoted, is based on the number of people that they violate. There's a word for it. I think it's contacts. The number of contacts that they do to people, the number of times that they've searched somebody's driver's license or searched somebody's license plate or detained people. The more people they can violate, the sooner they're going to rise up the chain of command. What does that say about King Obama, folks? So now they're blaming the dog, that the dog wasn't certified, and dogs are supposed to be certified every year. As if that would have made any damn difference. Even if this guy wouldn't have had a dog. He could have lied to the judge and said anything he wanted to get the judge to sign a warrant. There's oh so much to this story. One One other story I got, I don't have it handy because I'm just inundated with information about this case, is a woman who went through the same thing. Now, folks, evidently Hidalgo County it borders with Mexico. So these counties and these agencies, law enforcement agencies, are likely getting a lot of federal money. They got to use it up. And speaking of money and using it up, it's all tax dollars. All stolen money from we the tax-paying sheeple who give our obedience to them and who continue to give them power over us by voting. That's what your vote does, folks. And then on some of the commentaries, some people were talking about how, that's not reasonable suspicion, and oh, the doctors should they should be fired, and they should, good luck with that. Do you know how powerful doctors are? They're pretty damn powerful. And they run hand in hand with the pharmaceutical industry, who is also very powerful. In my nursing school, while I was going through nursing school, 95% of my textbooks were written by the pharmaceutical industry. It was all about how to give somebody a pill and then how to give them what other kind of pill to give them if that pill didn't work. We are slowly being killed, folks. It's called democide. It's a new word that I learned recently. The government killing its own people. So where you've got Hidalgo County, there probably are, I would venture to guess, a few illegal human beings there. I don't like to refer to them as illegal aliens. I think the aliens are the cops and the docs who perform rape and call it and say that they were authorized to do it. It's their duty. Just following orders. Just following a judge's orders. Well, why is it that in the private ER, those doctors said, no, we're not going to have anything to do with this. It's unethical. The patient isn't allowing us. We need his consent. That's 101, folks, in hospitals. Patient consent. Which is why I'm very disappointed in the nurses who were complicit in this rape. I'm going to find out some stuff about them. I'm going to report back to you guys on them. Because I'm especially disgusted with them. They know better. So Reason Magazine wrote an article. This dog can authorize anal probes. Yesterday, Brian Doherty noted a federal lawsuit by a New Mexico man, and that's the name of the article. This dog can authorize anal probes, and it's on Reason.com. Let me see who. David Eckert, who was forcibly subjected to anal probings, stomach x-rays, enemas, and a colonoscopy because police officers who pulled him over for a rolling stop, they should have said allegedly rolling stop, suspected he had drugs hidden inside of him. No drugs were found. Now KOB, the Albuquerque TV station that reported Eckert's story, has discovered another motorist who was forced to undergo a similarly rigorous search of his digestive tract after being stopped for a minor traffic violation. Let me just go back to what I was saying initially about the illegal human beings. I wonder how many of them are getting probed. Because you see, cowards go to the the weakest link. I almost Freudianly slipped and said missing link, but I think that's what these cops and docs are, the missing link of inhumanity. I would like, maybe I'll do it myself, and I bet you I won't get very far. I want to know how many anal probes that hospital has conducted, and I want to go to every public hospital and find out, under the Freedom of Information Act, how many anal probes backed by search warrants have been conducted in these hospitals. But you know, an illegal person isn't going to go to a lawyer to seek justice. They're just going to either go back to Mexico or just suck it up. So I despise the use of the word illegal alien, because that dehumanizes human beings. Therefore, it's somehow okay in our mind. They're not really humans, they're aliens. So this recent report continues. According to police reports, Timothy Young was pulled over. This is the second person. Timothy Young was pulled over for failing to signal a turn and ended up exposed to the prying hands and eyes of cops and doctors acting on their behalf. Again, no drugs were found. In both cases, KOB reports the same police dog, Leo, triggered these intimate examinations by alerting to the driver's car seat. It turns out that Leo is not so good at identifying vehicles or people containing drugs. Leo seems to be getting it wrong pretty often. He might be getting it wrong because he's not even certified in New Mexico. Well, you know what? None of that is relevant. Leo could have maybe not even done anything wrong. I wouldn't put it past these lying cockroaches to have gotten on the phone and told the judge Leo said so, even though Leo didn't say so. Wouldn't put it past him. If I have time, I'm going to cover another quick story about New Hampshire. I'll try to remember. The article continues in Reason about Leo the dog. If you take a look at the dog certification, the dog did get trained, but his certification to be a drug dog expired in April of 2011. Canines need yearly recertification courses, and Leo is falling behind. Quote, we have done public requests to find anything that would show this dog has been trained. We have evidence that this dog has had false alerts in the past. End quote, Eckert's attorney, Shannon Kennedy, said. According to the Supreme Court, none of this necessarily disqualifies Leo as an informant reliable enough to obtain a warrant authorizing the sort of humiliating searches that Eckert and Young underwent. Last February, the justices unanimously ruled that quote, a court can presume, end quote, an alert by a drug-sniffing dog provides probable cause for a search, quote, if a bona fide organization has certified a dog after testing his reliability in a controlled setting, or, quote, if the dog has recently and successfully completed a training program that evaluated its proficiency in locating drugs, end quote. In practice, this means that if police say a dog is properly trained, they can get a search warrant based on nothing more than the animal's purported alert, and that search will be upheld unless a defendant can present evidence showing the dog is unreliable. Police need not produce or even keep data on a dog's actual performance in the field, evidence the court deemed inferior to the results of tests in a quote-unquote controlled, i.e. rigged, setting. Hence, it turns out that Leo's alerts frequently led to fruitless searches. That does not necessarily mean he will be deemed unreliable, even if he is wrong more often than he is right, which is often the case with drug detecting dogs. According to police and the Supreme Court, which essentially has adopted their point of view, dogs that seem to be making mistakes may actually be alerting to traces of drugs so minute that their existence cannot be confirmed. Let me pause right there. What if you're in a rental car, folks? Did you ever think about that? This is why you don't consent to searches. But you know what? Even if you don't consent to searches, that doesn't mean they're not going to search. They don't care. They got the badge. They got the freaking gun, folks. All these constitutionalists, oh, you got to exercise your rights. And I was one of them. Bull. The article continues, hence, you can never definitively say that a police dog erred, even though there are many possible sources of error, including distracting smells and conscious or subconscious cues by handlers. Not to mention the fact that cops who want to search someone can always falsely claim a dog alerted. Bingo. The article finishes up. The upshot is that if a cop wants to explore a motorist's anus, stomach, intestines, and feces, all he needs is a dog and a judge who takes to heart the Supreme Court's unjustified faith in canine capabilities. Is it just me? Why do I feel so appalled by this? Is it just me? Why is this not plastered all over CNN, ABC, CBS? Where's Bill O'Reilly on this? And if he was on it, he'd be looking at the suspect's history. Oh, he was a drug person, and maybe he was Mexican. I don't even know that. I don't know. But they're going to come out for all the reasons why we need to defend the state that is killing us, folks. You know, this report that doctors are the third leading cause of death in America, that was an independent study. If we were to have an independent study of how many people are being killed by the state, that is people in prison, people from the point you get arrested to the point you get released, how many people are dying, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the top reason for death. When you consider that we have the most people in prison per capita than any other nation on earth. And that includes communist China and former communist Russia combined, folks. Let me repeat this from, this came out of The Blaze. We uncovered a major claim by the cops in the New Mexico anal probe case when we went digging through the arrest affidavit. So here is the they itemized. 1. Eckert's abdominal area was x-rayed. No narcotics were found. 2. Doctors then performed an exam of Eckert's anus with their fingers. No narcotics were found. 3. Doctors performed a second exam of Eckert's anus with their fingers. No narcotics were found. 4. Doctors penetrated Eckert's anus to insert an enema. Eckert was forced to defecate in front of doctors and police officers. Eckert watched as doctors searched his stool. No narcotics were found. 5. Doctors penetrated Eckert's anus to insert an enema a second time. Eckert was forced to defecate in front of doctors and police officers. Eckert watched as doctors searched his stool. No narcotics were found. 6. Doctors penetrated Eckert's anus to insert an enema a third time. Eckert was forced to defecate in front of doctors and police officers. Eckert watched as doctors searched his stool. No narcotics were found. 7. Doctors then x-rayed Eckert again. No narcotics were found. Number 8. Doctors prepared Eckert for surgery, sedated him, and then performed a colonoscopy where a scope with a camera was inserted into Eckert's anus, rectum, colon, and large intestines. No narcotics were found. They could have stopped right there. But then they went on to talk about a record search for Eckert's past criminal history returns several results. The most recent drug-related arrest appears to have been in 2012. A section on the record, however, says the case was quote-unquote dismissed by prosecutor. He was charged with possession of a controlled substance, methamphetamine, in a felony case. The state of New Mexico entered a nolla prosequi motion, meaning it found it was not in the state's best interest to prosecute according to court records. In 2008, he was charged with a felony possession of a controlled substance. In 2005, he was charged with felony possession of controlled substance. Finally, in 2002, Eckert was charged with a felony possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute. Oh, my goodness. all non-violent so-called crimes. This is disgusting, folks. This is as a result of our precious war on drugs. Well, let me tell you guys something. There is no such thing as war on drugs. If there was such a thing as war on drugs, those bullets would be penetrating the cocaine loads and the marijuana pots, but the bullets are being unloaded on people. It's a war on people, folks. I'm almost out of time, and I don't have this article to back up what I'm saying, but it was out of New Hampshire, and this guy in New Hampshire is fighting, and I think he's taking it to the New Hampshire Supreme Court, because he went to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and he tried to get a customized license plate. You know how you can have, mine used to be TigerLily. That's my email address, and it stands for TigerLily. But when I became an anarchist, that is somebody who does not believe in the state. I believe in rules. I don't believe in rulers. And I believe that we as human individuals own our bodies, and we have the right to put anything we want to in our bodies and on our bodies. And coercion is criminal, and voluntarism tends to be more virtuous. But I digress. In New Hampshire, a man tried to customize his license plate to say, "Cops lie." Now you got up to 7 characters. COPSLIE. COPSLIE. 7 characters. And a bureaucrat at the DMV in New Hampshire said, nope, can't do that. And so he appealed it. And I don't know if it's a lawsuit or whatever, but it's, I believe, up in the state Supreme Court as freedom of expression. Cops lie. And I think that that's such a great idea, because if a cop pulls you over for allegedly violating some kind of an opinion with a gun, aka a law, in which nobody was harmed or anything, and they have to fill out the little form and either write in or type in your license plates numbers. I would love to see a cockroach have to type in "cops lie." It would be somewhat of a poetic justice situation. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I know I'm going to have a great weekend. I'm going to be very busy studying up on this case and on a few other cases, and I want to thank you all very much for tuning in to Freedomizer Radio and supporting Freedomizer Radio, and remind everybody that we're gonna, Freedomizer Radio, if you happen to be in Las Vegas, is having a conference. I'll see if I can find that commercial and air that. In the meantime, please stay tuned for See the Power in You with Cheryl. She is an awesome show host, and she gives a lot of she has a lot of insight and information about the gun in government and how we are being deceived, coerced, and lied and just jacked around, folks, when it comes to the nutritional things, the foods that we eat. So stay tuned, folks, as we transition through. Thank you all for tuning in to my healthcare edition of TigerLily's Freedom Roar, only on Freedomizer Radio.
Freedomizer Radio, where Freedomizers freedomize freedom.